Shabbat Shalom. I'm going to try something new. I'm going to co-lead a service with my dear friend and singer, Joan Wolf. And to get us in the mood for music, I invite Teddy Kaplan to play some music for us. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I'm Rabbi Stan Levin.
And I'm Joan Wolf. Shabbat Shalom.
And it is our pleasure to co-lead the service this night. Some of you may remember Joan and her daughter who sang for us for the High Holy Days. And it is a thrill for me to be working with her on this Shabbat. And with that, let's begin on page 84 of our service.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Hasharet, Malchei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei hashalom, malchei elyon, mi melech, malachei hamlachim, hakadosh, hakadosh baruch hu. Baruch Uni leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon, mi melech, malachei hamlachim, hakadosh, hakadosh baruch hu. Zetechem leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei hashalom, malchei elyon, mi melech, malachei hamlachim, hakadosh, hakadosh baruch hu.
And as we welcome the ministering angels, the Malachei Hasharet, we welcome all of you who are watching this service on the closed circuit television system. And we look forward to the day where we will be in the chapel together, in prayer together, in a prayerful community. Let's turn to page 38, where there will be a candle lighting. Source of mercy, continue your loving care for us and our loved ones. Give us strength to walk in your presence on the paths of the righteous, loyal to your Torah, steadfast in goodness.
Keep us far from all shame, grief, and anguish. Fill our homes with peace, light, and joy. O God, fountain of life, by your light shall we see light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvoto v'tzivanu l'helek Shabbat. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You hallow us with your mitzvot and command us to kindle the lights of Shabbat. May we be blessed with Shabbat joy. Amen. May we be blessed with Shabbat peace. Amen. May we be blessed with Shabbat light. Amen.
Thank you for lighting our candles. We'll continue on page 39, where Joan and I will read responsibly, but please join us. Even though we won't hear you, you can still be part of the service. Page 39. Come, let us sing to the Eternal One.
Let our song ring out to our sheltering rock.
Let us come before God with thanksgiving.
Our voices loud with song.
For great are you, Eternal One.
High above the gods that are worshipped.
In your hands are the depths of the earth.
Yours are the mountain peaks.
You made the sea. It is yours.
The dry land is the work of your hands.
You are our God and our shepherd.
We are your people and your flock.
If only today we would listen to your voice. Let us continue on page 46 with a love song to the Shabbat bride.
Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתחילה, לה 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 לה, לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה, לה 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 לה, לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגילה, לה 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 לה, לך דודי, לקראת קלה, שמקמי שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
And if you are so inclined, please rise and face the door as the Shabbat bride comes in, and we are guests at the Shabbat bride's wedding.
בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, לה 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 לה, לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לה 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 לה, לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
We will continue on page 48 with Psalm 93. Joan and I will do it responsively. The Eternal One is enthroned, robed in grandeur.
The Eternal One is robed, girded with strength.
The one who founded the solid earth to be unmoving.
Ageless is your throne, endless your being.
The oceans cry out, eternal God, and the oceans cry out their thunder.
The oceans rage in their fury, but greater than the thunder of the torrents.
Mightier than the breakers of the sea is the majesty of God on high.
Your law stands firm, and in your temple, O eternal God, holiness abides to the end of time.
And if you are so inclined, please stand for the Chatzi Kaddish. On the other hand, as the rabbis say, you can be standing in your heart, which frankly, Joan and I are going to be doing right now because of the technology. We will continue with the Chatzi Kaddish on page 49. If you wish, you can stand. On the other hand, you can stand in your hearts, frankly, as Joan and I are doing, because of the technology we're using. Yitkadal, Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yama divrach hirutei, v'yamelich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yamechon, uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, bagala, uv'izman kahariv, v'yemeru. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevorach, le'olam u'lal me'al maya, Yitvarach, Yishtabach, Yitpoar, Yitrabah, Yitnaseh, Yithadar, Yithalev, Yithalal, Shmei Dekudisha, Rechu, Leila, Minko Bechata, Beshirata, Tushbechata, Benechemata, Damiran, Bioma, Bimeru. Amen. Please rise for the Baruch Hu on page 50. Joan, if you would like to lead us.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam voed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, whose word brings on the evening. With wisdom, you open heaven's gates, and with understanding, you make the ages pass and the seasons alternate. Your will controls the stars as they travel through the skies.
You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light. You cause day to pass and bring on the night, separating day from night. You command the hosts of heaven. May the living and eternal God rule us always to the end of time. We praise you, O God, whose word makes evening fall.
We will continue with Ahavat Olam on the top of page 51.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu lemadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shokbeinu u'bkumeinu nasiach bechukecha ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגה יומם ולילה.
Palatachal tisimi mene leolamim, Aruch Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem kivod malchuto leolam
Any viewers
vaed.
standing, please be seated for the Be'ahavta. On page 52. Be'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha, v'chol meodecha, v'hayu hagorim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavcha, hayom al levavecha, v'shinatam levanecha, v'divarta bam, v'shitlecha b'veitecha, uv'lechtecha v'derech, v'shach b'kol kumecha, v'kshatam liyahod ha'yadecha, v'hayu l'totafot b'neinecha, v'chtatam, ha'mezuzah b'techa, uv'yisharecha. L'man tizkaru v'yasitem et kol mitzvotai, yitem kedoshim l'Elohechem, Ahani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti echem, me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem l'Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem emed. We will continue on page 53. Joan and I will read the redemption section responsively. All this we hold to be true and sure. You alone are God. There is none else. And we are Israel, your people.
You are our sovereign. You deliver us from the hand of oppressors and save us from the fist of tyrants.
You do wonders without number, marvels that pass our understanding.
You give us our life. By your help, we survive all who seek our destruction.
You did wonders for us in the land of Egypt, miracles and marvels in the land of Pharaoh.
You led your people Israel out forever to serve you in freedom.
When your children witnessed your power, they extolled you and gave you thanks. Willingly they enthroned you, and full of joy, Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang this song.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha ne'edar ba'kodesh, nora tehilot, ose fele, ose fele, malechutecha, Ra'u vanecha, בוקע הים לפני משה, זה אלי. אנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
ונאמר כי פרדה אדוני גאקו, ולא מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גואל Yisrael. We will continue on page 55 of the Hashkivenu in English. Grant that we may lie down in peace, eternal God, and raise us up, O sovereign, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel, and for your name's sake, be our help.
Shield us from hatred and plague. Keep us from war and famine and anguish. Subdue our inclination to evil. O God, our guardian and helper, our gracious and merciful sovereign, give us refuge in the shadow of your wings. O guard our coming and our going, that now and always we have life and peace. We praise you, O God, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat. The children of Israel will keep the Sabbath. La'asod et HaShabbat l'dorotam brit olam, to make the Sabbath for their generations an eternal covenant. And here we are, over 3,000 years later, still celebrating the Shabbat. It is indeed our eternal covenant. We're now at the part of the service called Amidah, which literally means standing, or tefillah, usually translated as prayer, but it really means to look inside ourselves, to judge ourselves. And the difference between the tefillah on the weekday service and the Shabbat service is there are only 7 benedictions on Shabbos. On the weekday, it's called the Shemona Esrei, which is Hebrew for 18, although there's actually a 19th benediction. But none of the petitions where we ask for anything are included on Shabbos, because Shabbos is our taste of Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. If you wish, please stand, or Joan and I will be standing in our hearts because of the technology. As we have our moment with God, we are in the presence of God spiritually as we do our tefillah. Adonai sifotai titachu fi yagi tehilotecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahod, U'Mevi Gula Livnei B'neihem, L'man Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach Umoged, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham, Ezrat Sarah. We'll continue on page 57, where Joan will take us through Atah Gibor.
Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah Rav lehoshia, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לך חיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום לך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We've just done the first three benedictions for Shabbat. We'll now do the central benediction. It's the prayer for Shabbat itself. And I will ask Joan if she wouldn't mind reading it in English on page 59. Please join her.
Our God, God of our fathers and our mothers, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us with your mitzvot, and let your Torah be our way of life. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, eternal God, let your holy Sabbath remain our heritage, that all Israel, hallowing your name, may find rest and peace. We praise you, O God, for the Sabbath and its holiness.
Our fifth benediction is called Avodah, worship. Actually, this is a recording that Joan and her daughter Leah made for us for the High Holy Days. And Joan, if you would like to introduce it, and then I'm going to cut to the recording that you and Leah did.
Leah and I will sing Ritzeh, and then I will sing Modim.
And do you want to let people know that there was a time difference between now and when we recorded it?
Right. You'll notice by the length of my hair that we recorded that back in September or August.
And now, even Joan and I will sit back, relax, and enjoy listening to Joan and her daughter Leah sing Ritzeh.
Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu be'amecha Yisrael u'tefilatam be'ahava tikabel u'tehi leratzon tamid avodat Yisrael.
Our seventh benediction is a prayer of thanksgiving. Modi menachnu lach. God, we thank you. And now you're going to hear Joan sing it as she recorded it for us back in August or September.
Modim anachnu lach, she'atahu Adonai, she'atahu Adonai, Eloheinu, Eloheinu belohei avotenu. Le'olam, le'olam va'ed, tzur chayenu, magen ishenu, atahu ledor v'ador. Atahu ledor v'ador. נודה לך ונספר תחילתך על חיינו המסורים בידיך. חיינו המסורים בידיך. נשמותינו פקודות לך. לא חלו רחמך, לא תמו חסדיך, מעולם קיווינו לך. מעולם קיווינו לך.
We will continue on the bottom of page 61 in English. We gratefully acknowledge that you are our God and the God of our people, the God of all generations. You are the rock of our life, the power that shields us in every age.
We thank you and sing your praises for our lives, which are in your hand, for our souls, which are in your keeping, for the signs of your presence we encounter every day, and for your wondrous gifts at all times, morning, noon, and night. You are goodness. Your mercies never end. You are compassion. Your love will never fail. You have always been our hope. For all these things, O sovereign God, let your name be forever exalted and blessed. Our God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Eternal God, whose nature is goodness, we give you thanks and praise.
And the rabbis, as they put the tefillah together, thought it would be appropriate to end it with probably one of the most important prayers we ever do in a service, our prayer for peace. Joan will lead us on page 63.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov be'anecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol et ubechol sha'a bishlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam.
We will continue on page 63 and to the top of page 64 in silent devotion. Chatzotah, Kakel Nefeshatam, Vaselam Hashamecha, Vaselam Minecha, Salem Shiteka, Salem Torateka, Lamanya Chatzolina Decha, Oshayam Inecha, Vainina. O God, keep my tongue from evil and my lips from deceit. Help me to keep silent in the face of derision, humble in the presence of all. Open my heart to your Torah that I may hasten to do your mitzvot. Save me with your power. In time of trouble, be my answer. That those who love you may rejoice.
Iyu leratzon, iyu leratzon, imre fi vehegyon libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, vegoli. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer, my rock and my redeemer, Adonai tzuri vegoli. Amen.
Usually we would be doing a Torah service at this point, and we would take the Torah out of the ark and march it around the congregation, but we're home. And I don't have a Torah, but that doesn't mean that we can't look at the Torah portion for this week and find something meaningful for our lives in our ever-changing times. Because this service is going to be shown on 2 consecutive Shabbatot, I will cover both Torah portions. The first one is Lech Lecha, Hebrew for go for yourself, literally, but actually means closer to get thee out. And the second one is Va'era, and he appeared, referring to God's appearing to Abraham when Abraham is in his front of his tent at the heat of the day. Let me cover some of the highlights of Lech Lecha. It's fascinating to me that Avram, as Abraham is then called, receives a message from an invisible God. Now, he was raised in a family of idolaters, yet this invisible God tells him to take his family, leave their homeland, leave the place of his birth, and go to a place that God will show him. And he does. It's interesting that he even needs any homeland, considering at this point he has no children, he has no large family that he's traveling with. Basically, it's Sarah's Egyptian maid Hagar, and his nephew Lot, although pronounced Lot in Hebrew, although I think he has a fairly large army. They settle in Canaan. There is a famine. He and Sarah, as his wife is then called, go to Egypt. They come back when the famine is over. Because Avram has no children, Sarah tells him to consort with her maid Hagar. He does. She gives birth to Ishmael, much to the chagrin of Sarai. Those are the highlights of Lech Lecha. The Torah portion actually ends with an instruction from God for Abraham to do a ritual circumcision of his retinue, his 13-year-old son Ishmael, and himself. He's also told that his 90-year-old wife will give birth to a son, and he laughs. In the Hebrew for he laughs is Yitzchak. He will laugh, and that will inevitably be Isaac's name. Chapter Va'era begins immediately thereafter. So when Abraham is sitting at the tent, at the entrance of the tent at the heat of the day, the rabbis interpret that as he's recovering from the circumcision. And yet, despite it, Avram gets up and performs hospitality to his 3 guests, 3 strangers, simply referred to as Anashim, men, although the rabbis tell us that they're angels. One of these men tells Sarah that she will give birth in a year, and she also laughs. Then we have lots of adventures. Two of the angels go to Sodom and Gomorrah to save Lot and his family. And eventually they come back. And we now deal with their instructions that Sarah will give birth, and she does, that she gives birth to the son Isaac. And when Isaac is weaned, Sarai instructs Abraham to send out, Sarah instructs Abraham to send Hagar and her son out into the wilderness with a minimum number of provisions, ostensibly to die. Awful story, right? And Hagar places her son Ishmael underneath a bush, and she goes at a bow's distance away because she doesn't want to see her son die. Yet an angel appears, shows Hagar where there's a well, and Ishmael is saved. And we find out that he has several wives and 12 children of his own. And then we have the Akedah. Abraham gets a message from God to take his son, the one that he loves, Isaac, to the top of Mount Moriah to sacrifice him. And as Abraham is about to do that, yet again, an angel appears and stops Abraham's hand. He says, don't do anything. You've proved your dedication. So what I find interesting with all of the stories that I could choose, in the end of Genesis 21 and the end of Genesis 22, God intervenes and saves the life of a child through the medium of angels. So it occurred to me, where can I go with angels? The great Rabbi Maimonides, Moshe ben Maimon, a 12th century Spanish rabbi, and a physician, by the way, has determined that there are 12 levels of angels, and the lowest level, the one closest to earth, is a human, at least in a human form. And they get more abstract going up. Forget about those Renaissance paintings of fat little babies with wings and halos. We're going by Maimonides, that the angels are in human form. And it occurred to me, are there angels in our lives? I think there are. I think all of us have experienced angels in human form, and there are times we have been an angel. I want you to think about it. Have there been times in your life where you've experienced conflict or strife, and somebody, a dear friend, a relative, and sometimes it's a stranger, comes into your life and gives you insights that maybe you hadn't thought about and that were a turning point for the good for you? And think of the number of times you've been an angel for somebody else, where you've been the friend in need, or you've been the advisor, or you have made a difference to somebody else that improved the quality of his or her life. I want you to think about that. So with that, I want us to go to the Talmud and tie everything together. As I mentioned, the rabbis tell us that Abraham, in the beginning of Torah portion Vayera, was recuperating from a circumcision, and how important it is to visit the sick, vitally important. And the Talmud gives us a list of responsible activities that we should be doing for other people: rejoicing with bride and groom, visiting the sick, consoling the bereaved, making peace when there is strife. And those are actually included in morning services. So if these are things we are supposed to do, and if you look at them, these are to help other people, it gives us the opportunity to be angels if we do any of them, including studying daily. I'm throwing that one in. So if you haven't been an angel, it's time to be one. And if you haven't let an angel into your life, go ahead and do it. It'll make your life and their lives better. Shabbat Shalom. At this time, let's do a healing prayer for friends and relatives, whether for physical, spiritual, psychological, or emotional healing, whether in a hospital or at home or in hospice care. And at Riderwood, we want to think of those people at Arbor Ridge. But I will be silent for a moment and allow you to say the name or names of those people whom you feel could benefit from a healing prayer. Mi sheberach avotenu ekor habracha limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Isheberach imotenu bekor habracha avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah sholema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We will continue with the Eleno on page 148.
Aleinu leshabeach la'adon hakol, latet gedula v'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu keoge ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, let us meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. Recent passings include Edwin Goldstein, Elizabeth Zeller, and Vivian Gallo. The October yahrzeits include Irene Friedman, Louis Grotke, Gertrude Levin, Herman Nathan, David Schlags, Tessie Scheingorn, Joseph Sumner, Ira Tublin, and Hetty Zaki. If there are names of others whom you carry in your heart, whether you're in the Shuvah, the first 7 days, or the Shloshim, the first 30 days, or even the first year, or this is a period of a yahrzeit, an anniversary, I will be silent and allow you to say those names. Again, we won't hear you, Joan and I, but God will. Zichronam lebracha, may their memories be for a blessing. If you are so inclined, please rise to the Mourner's Kaddish, or as we've done all service, you can stand in your heart. Mourner's Kaddish, page 154. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'yizman kariv v'yimaru, Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivorach leolam ul'ol me'ol maya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpro'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shmei dekudesha v'rechu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran b'yama v'yimaru, Amen. Yehei shlomo Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael v'yimaru, Amen. Osei shalom b'yimaromav hu ya'aseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru, Amen. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimaru, Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort all who are bereaved, and we affirm by saying, Amen. Joan will end our service with Adon Olam on page 156.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נעשה וחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא אחד ואין שני, להמשילו, להכבירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה, והוא אלי וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, בידו אפקיד רוחי, בעת תישן ואירה, ואם רוחי גווייתי, אדוני לי ולא אירה.
We want to thank everybody who made this service possible. For those of you who watched it, Joan and I are going to take a quick break, and we will be back in a moment to do the Kiddush and the Motzi. We have our Kiddush cups. We have challah. We are now ready to sanctify the wine and the bread. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'rotzovanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'yavadu v'ratzon inchilanu, zikaron l'maseh v'reshit, ki hu yom techila l'mikrei kodesh, zecher l'tziyat mitzrayim, kivanu v'chata, ve'otanu kidashta, v'kol hamim, v'shabbat kadshecha, v'yahavahu v'ratzon, hilchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen.
It's Kedem wine, really. Actually, it's Kedem grape juice, really.
Me too.
Okay.
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
B'te'avon, everybody. Have a sweet Shabbos and a great week. And remember to vote. Shabbat
Shabbat
Shalom.
shalom.